Update. Am I the a-hole for changing my mind about my wife being a stay-at-home mom because she changed the terms? Original post. I, 35 male, have been with my wife Ali, 37 female, for 2 years, married for 1, and we are expecting our first child together in a few months. I also have 2 children, 8 male and 6 female, from a previous relationship with Alex, 32 female, and we have 50-50 custody. However, Alex travels a lot for work, so we have the kids more than that most of the time, and we get child support from her. Before we got married, Ali and I spoke extensively about what we wanted, and she was adamant about being a stay-at-home mom. I was upfront with her that I was fine with that, we'd be able to afford it, but she would need to be a stay-at-home mom for all of the kids to make it work. She agreed happily. So, as you can probably predict, she sat me down the other day and told me that she wants, at minimum, her first year as a mom to only be a stay-at-home mom to our shared baby. She said after that, she can help out more with the other kids, but wants to protect her first-time motherhood and said it's her #1 boundary. I told her that would no longer work. I couldn't support a family of 5 on just my salary without help with all of the kids. She said I needed to figure it out and respect her boundaries, but this simply won't be possible. We have family to help for sure, but she's saying she doesn't want to be responsible for the older kids at all for the first year. Also, we want at least 1 more child, and I'm now worried she'll try to extend the year with another baby. She's incredibly hurt and angry, but I don't think it would even be possible to respect her boundaries. So would I be the a-hole for reneging on my promise to let her be a stay-at-home mom? Quick edit. My ex-wife will be keeping the kids for 2 weeks after the birth, and has been able to assure me she won't travel during that first month unless emergencies come up. I am also paying the person I currently have who picks up, watches, and drops off the kids before and after school an additional 4 weeks. After that, Alex already has them for 6 full weeks, so Ali will have 6 full weeks off from any older kid duties. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Aren't the older 2 in school? So realistically, she would have the entire school day with just her and the baby. She's being ridiculous. She can either enjoy several hours each day alone with her kid and parent her stepchildren after school as agreed, or she can put her baby in daycare and miss out on all those hours while she gets a job. Yes, but they'd need to be taken to and picked up from school or taken to their activities while I'm at work. I currently pay somebody to do this, but with a new baby and without her salary, I won't be able to. She needs to see the math and know that what she wants is not possible. She also needs a dictionary because that's not a boundary. It's a demand. A boundary is not something that can dictate anyone else's behavior. Yes, I have shown her the numbers, but she wants me to make it work. How? She's being unreasonable and at the expense of your older children. I'm angry for you. Not the a-hole. Your kids are in school most of the day Monday through Friday, I'd assume. That gives her 9 months to have the days with her baby, and in the evenings and weekends she'll have your help. But I'm more concerned about the dynamic she's setting up. Her baby versus your kids. Your children will feel this dynamic very deeply, if they don't already. She will make them feel like outsiders in their own home. She will make them feel like this baby isn't really their sibling. This has disaster written all over it, and you need to shut this down immediately. You're headed for another divorce, I'm afraid. Her mask has slipped. I agree, and it's so far out of left field. She loves the kids and they love her. She always loves doing things with them and planning activities. I wouldn't have married her if she didn't like them. Now for the update. One quick thing. I've known Ali since freshman year biology. We never dated until a few years ago, but we've always remained friends. I have known her for a long time, and this behavior is also new. She loved being a bonus mom, would be excited for the kids to come over for extra time, and would even ask me to ask my ex if she could have them randomly if she wanted to take a day off and go swimming or to the zoo or something. I've asked her to talk to her doctor about this, and she's yelled at me about it. I have no clue what to do. I talked to Ali and laid everything out. I told her that her demands were out of line and incredibly entitled, and that if she insisted on keeping them, I was no longer comfortable with her quitting her job and would not support it. Further, 2 weeks without my kids was ridiculous. So I told her that if she went into labor during our custody time, my parents would have the older kids when we were in the hospital. But I am no longer comfortable sending my kids away to their moms for 2 weeks. Other families don't normally do that, and I would not either. But for the first 2 months after we have the baby, I would keep paying the nanny and take care of the older kids' needs, which is longer than I had originally agreed. Honestly, it was also more than she'd even originally agreed to, so I thought it was a fair compromise. She lost her mind and flipped out at me, told me that I wasn't respecting her first-time motherhood, WTF, and that she shouldn't have to care for kids I didn't give birth to for the first year of her baby's life. I was honestly over it at this point and done arguing. I told her she needed to check herself and that none of this was new or a surprise. If she didn't want to do it, she shouldn't have agreed to it, and her being a stay-at-home mom was off the table. To be clear, I know I could make it work with just my salary, but it would mean taking the funds I would allocate towards her fun money for things like shopping, self-care, etc. And I'm not comfortable telling an adult dependent on me financially that she couldn't have a choice for fun money. I showed her the budget, which backfired because she said that I didn't need to defund her fun money and gave me a few solutions, which were: take the older kids out of private school and ask my ex to give us that money in child support instead. Stop putting money into my older kids' college fund. Sell my boat. Those were her solutions, none of which had her sacrificing anything, only me and or my kids. And the first one was so unreasonable. I could only imagine how that conversation with my ex would go. She'd laugh me out of the country, LOL. I told Allie all of that was unreasonable and a non-starter, and honestly, it just made me see where her priorities are. So yeah, I told her that if she couldn't agree to common sense compromises, I could no longer trust her to be a stay-at-home mom to our older kids. There was zero daylight in how much I cared about my older kids versus our shared baby, and I had to protect them both equally. The fact that she thought it was reasonable to stop saving for my older kids' college while still giving her money for Botox and highlights showed me where her priorities would lie if she no longer brought in income. I said I was no longer comfortable with her quitting her job, and that since my work has not free but heavily reduced daycare on site, that would be the best option for our family after her FMLA leave. She doesn't get paid maternity leave, just unpaid up to 3 months, which will be fine. She's devastated and being cold towards me, but surprisingly not my kids, which is good. I don't want to kill her dreams of being a stay-at-home mom, but I can't work with someone who refuses to be reasonable. We discussed it with our therapist last week, who wasn't exactly on my side obviously, but was trying to point out the unfairness, and she just keeps saying she needs me to prioritize her needs and boundaries. The therapist even tried explaining that these are not boundaries, but she's not listening. So in summary, I tried reasoning with my wife. She tried convincing me to stop saving for college for the older kids to pay for their nanny, so she could only be a stay-at-home mom to our shared baby, and I told her I no longer thought it would work for her to be a stay-at-home mom. She's devastated, but we're working it out with our therapist, and I'm hoping this is all just hormones. Please go see a lawyer and figure out how to protect yourself, and maybe move other college funds into a trust so they can't be touched, etc. She is going to stay home with the baby no matter what, and will start rejecting your bio kids when she doesn't get her way. My kids' college and savings are in trusts. We had a prenup as well, so I'm not too worried about that. I'd divorce her before she can reasonably argue in court that you have to pay inflated child support and alimony. Please check in with your older children regularly to ensure that her behavior towards them has not changed when you are not present. That's the thing, she's still wonderful to them. They see a therapist as well, just monthly, since the divorce we wanted to make sure they were okay. And it's like, when they're not around, she's a different person. It's hard to explain how it's such a reversal to people who don't know her, but she was so lovely with them until she got pregnant. Hormones don't excuse this kind of behavior. Have her checked for early onset of PPA or PPD, but don't excuse her selfish words as fleeting due to her pregnancy. She basically boiled it down to wanting you to choose her or your kids, then freaked out when you chose your kids. That is something that shouldn't be forgiven lightly. Her first choice at compromise is to sabotage your kids' educations, At this point, it sounds like you've got yourself a gold digger having a tantrum because she feels entitled to more, no matter who suffers for her greed. She is only 4 months pregnant, so I doubt it's PPD. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being willing to end my marriage because I refuse to uproot my kids from their life to follow my stepkids? My wife and I have been together for 4 years, married for almost 2. We both have kids. My daughter is 11 and my son is 9. We lost their mom when they were younger. My wife had been divorced for many years and shared custody of her 15 and 16-year-olds with her ex, until a few months ago when he was granted permission to move to another state with their kids because their kids wanted to go with their dad. My wife doesn't want to be away from her kids for long periods of time, and she has told me she's moving. She feels like she needs to be near her kids. I support this, but I won't move my kids away from family, friends, and stability to do this. My kids don't want to move either. They heard my wife mention it several weeks ago, and they told me they don't want to leave. They'd miss everyone too much. I already know the life my kids have here is what they need and where they thrive. I explained this to my wife, and she was defeated. She told me we can't make a marriage work if I'm here and she's there, and I said I agree and told her I believe the best way forward would be to divorce. She was upset by this, of course, and we talked and I comforted her, and she asked me if there was anything she could say or do to make me reconsider. I told her I won't move my children, and I would never ask her to be apart from her kids for months at a time. I said we're both committed to the best interests of our individual children, and that means doing what's right for them, even if it's not right for us as a couple. She asked for us to talk it out some more, and we have. We've talked about it extensively, but all the while she has been making arrangements for a place where her ex and kids now live and a new job. I think she believed I would change my mind the more we discussed everything, but I have not, and now she's angry that I would rather our marriage end than move so we can all be together as a family. But I know this is not what's best for my kids. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You're putting your kids' stability first, and that's exactly what a parent should do. It sucks for your marriage, but forcing them to move away from their entire support system would be unfair. Your wife is doing what she feels she has to for her kids, and you're doing the same for yours. It's heartbreaking, but sometimes love isn't enough when kids are involved. Maybe when your kids are grown and off to college, then you might revisit the living arrangements. But for now, you are doing what's best for your kids. I applaud you for doing what is best for them. Not the a-hole. You're putting your children first, as you should. Why is she getting angry at you? While she did the right thing by putting her children first, she's the one that broke the family dynamic. She's the one who had already put the wheels in motion to move. She just thought you'd follow after her and is angry because you didn't bow to her demands. That's not thinking as a family. I think she's angry that I'm sticking to what we both always said when we started our relationship. Just like she's putting her kids first, I'm doing the same, and I think the reality of that is frustrating her, when I in theory have more flexibility than she does. But what matters most to me is, would it be good for my kids? And the answer is no. This move would not be good for them. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to divorce my wife for enabling my son to harass one of his classmates? I am 38 male, and my wife, 38 female, have been together for 18 years and married for 13. My wife has always been this sweet woman with a very strong sense of justice. She always expressed her disdain towards people who treated others like dirt. We had a son 16 who we raised to treat people with respect and align with our morals, and he had always been such a sweet kid. Well, that was until we found out he was downright tormenting this kid in his class for months. My son and a group of his friends were bullying this boy for coming from a low-income background and not having real parents. He was being raised by his grandmother. They took any of the very little money he had or was given, as well as any treasured items of his regardless of the expense. They physically harmed him when he didn't want to give them money or had no money to give. We found this out by getting a call from our son's school one day, and they called us in. They informed us of everything. I didn't want to believe it. My son, who I knew, would have never done this. Nevertheless, when I asked my son, he confessed to everything. He looked guilty, but he looked as guilty as you would be for accidentally stepping on someone's shoe. My wife also looked upset at him, but once again, like it was something small. When we saw the boy who my son was hurting, he was covered in cuts and bruises, and I couldn't believe my son had done this to another boy. His grandmother also looked like she had been crying for hours. I felt horrible. My son got suspended for 3 weeks out of school, and charges will most likely be pressed. I genuinely don't know how to process this, or fathom what I've done to raise such a cruel kid. I immediately grounded him from everything, including devices, going outside without supervision, and did many other things. But I feel like it wasn't enough punishment for him. I'm nauseated by the thought of everything he's done, and I feel like he deserves more ramifications. But I don't know what else I could possibly do. My wife, however, seemed to immediately get over it. In fact, she told me I was too harsh. She just gave him a slap on the wrist and downplayed it like they were 5-year-olds at a playground who called each other stupid names but would easily get over it. This young boy my son and his friends tortured will probably have to deal with his trauma for years or even for life, and you're treating it like it's a silly altercation? She also told me something along the lines of, "Boys will be boys. You should know this. Boys roughhouse and get into conundrums playfully. Boys do not abuse other boys for their background or simply just for fun." I snapped and yelled at her, saying that her treating the situation like this was horrible and she needs to learn basic empathy. That poor boy had to endure the pain and couldn't get attention for his wounds while our son was getting affirmation for inflicting the pain on him. My wife snapped back and said I was overreacting. I told her she wouldn't be acting like this if it was our son in this situation. She just responded by calling me a list of derogatory names that I don't want to repeat. I feel like she's not the same person after this. Neither my son nor wife will talk to me unless I apologize to them, which is what my wife said. I don't know what I could possibly apologize for. I don't know why she's making me apologize to them when she's made no effort to have our son apologize to the boy he's been hurting for months. My wife has also been very passive-aggressive, and yesterday she left to stay at a friend's house with our son. My son has also just not been talking to me at all, convinced he was in the right. I want to divorce her. I'm disgusted by her actions of allowing this indirectly, and I'm even more repulsed by my son for doing this to another human being. Maybe I am overreacting or being an irrational a-hole. Maybe a divorce is too harsh. But I'll never be able to see her as the same person after this. I don't want to be with someone who treats abuse like it's just a small shenanigan, especially when she's been so adamant on having people like my son get a punishment twice as painful as the victim endured. I don't know what to do with my son. I don't know what to do with myself. Am I the a-hole? Is it possible I can just talk this through with them and get over it? Or am I just being irrational for wanting divorce? Not the a-hole. However, you married one, and she's raising an even bigger one. My heart hurts for that poor child and his grandmother. Jesus, your wife should never have procreated. Her genes are grade A a-holes. These things also don't just happen out of nowhere. I'd wager OP has subconsciously ignored a lot. This isn't to blame OP, but more if he looks back, he might find answers that'll help him move forward. I'd also bet money that it's a class thing. The son and the mother look down on the boy and his grandmother. So it's okay because they're lower class, so they're not real people. I think this has been going on for a prolonged period of time, and wife has known about it, and now it's escalated to this.